Ayo! Hello, Fantastics. It's Mr. Clintastik here with a Strixhaven School of Mages limited review. Here we'll be going over the cards in the set in relation to draft and sealed. If I do think they might see some play in standard, I might bring it up, but for the most part, this is only going to focus on draft and sealed playability, where a lot of cards get to shine where they otherwise wouldn't. If you enjoy this kind of content, please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to help my channel grow in the future. And if you have any thoughts on the cards, please leave them down in the comment section below. So I've already done the monocolor cards. We've already done the modal double face cards. Now we're gonna go into the gold cards, which are the multicolored cards. Let's jump right in. First, we have Aether Helix, a 5-drop, 3 generic, a green, and a blue sorcery. Return target permanent to its owner's hand. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Okay, I can dig it. 5-drop bounce spell that gets you something back from the yard isn't bad. But when you have bounce spells that cost 2 and 3 mana, I think that makes a difference. But this does get something back from the yard, and it's not in black. So I think that has to be considered. And green does get things from the yard. I want to put this at a 3.5 right now. It is kind of a high cost, but it has a lot of value and could potentially help with Magecraft. I'm going to give it a 3.5. Next we have Beladros Witherbloom. Ooh, one of the Elder Dragons. It is a 7-drop, 5 generic black and a green, legendary creature, Elder Dragon. Flying. At the beginning of each upkeep, create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with, when this creature dies, you gain 1 life. Pay 10 life, untap all lands you control. Activate only once each turn. This might not be a popular idea, but I think this card is good in other places other than limited. Like maybe you want to try to do this in standard or maybe even modern. You pay 10 life and untap all your lands. But in standard, in limited, like draft and sealed, I'm not so sure. 7-drop 4/4 flyer. Yeah, of course you slam this down. You can pay 10 life and untap all your lands, but do you really want to do that? For the fact that it is a mythic, it's a flyer, and at the beginning of each upkeep you create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with, when it dies, gain a life. I'm gonna give it a 3.5, but I think this is one of the weaker of the Elder Dragons for limited. I mean, you're gonna slam dunk this in your green black deck for sure. I'm gonna give it a 3.75 out of respect, because it does produce a creature each turn, and that could be pretty beneficial. Next we have Biomathematician, 3-drop, 1 generic, green, and a blue human wizard. When Biomathematician ETBs, create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token. Put a 1/1 counter on each fractal you control. It's a 2/2. A 3-drop 2/2. That makes a 1/1 fractal. Will fractals be a limited deck? Do y'all think so? Because I'm not so sure. I wasn't impressed. I'm more impressed with like how pests are looking, but I guess fractals, if pests are looking okay, fractals might play a part. I'm gonna give this a 3.25 for now. I think it's just okay. It has no evasion, but Simic's gonna want to play it. Next we have Blade Historian, 4-drop, hybrid colors, Boros. Human Cleric, attacking creatures you control have double strike. It's a 2/3. If this ain't something Boros want, I don't know what is. My goodness. You literally, like, you can close out game with this. Yikes. Yikes. So I'm going to give this a 3.75. This is really good to me. And I shouldn't talk about that dragon like a 3.75 isn't good. It's a good card, but it's a high mana cost. This is 4 mana, and if you're playing Boros, you're going to want to play this card. My god. Give all your creatures double strike, and then say you're pumping or doing Magecraft or something. Your opponents won't know what hit them. You're going to hit them like a truck. Next we have Blood Researcher, a 3-drop, 1 generic, black-green vampire druid with menace. Whenever you gain life, put a 1/1 counter on Blood Researcher. It's a 2/2. The green-black's going to want to play it, but it's not exciting. I mean, a 3-drop, 2/2 with menace. I'm going to give it a 3.25. It's just right above average to me. I mean, maybe this could get out of control if you're getting a lot of life. But who's to say? Next we have Blot Out the Sky, a X white black sorcery. Create X tapped 2/1 white and black inkling creature tokens with flying. If X is X or more, destroy all non-creature non-land permanents. I'm gonna give it a 4. Even though the creatures are tapped, they are flyers, so you can potentially win the game the next turn. Also, the second portion, you know, you can potentially blow out your opponents. I think this is actually really good, and it might be first pickable. I'm only going to give it a 4 because I don't know if I want to play multiple copies of this card. I might just want one, you know. You pay 4 mana. You pay 3 mana, you get a 2/1 flyer. Pay 4 mana. I mean, it does have exponential value. Maybe I do want multiple copies because you could just start playing it at 3 and then play it again at 4 or 5 or 6. So maybe this is like a 4.25, maybe even a 4.5. So for now, I'm gonna give it a 4.25. I think it's definitely first pickable. Pretty good. Next, we have Body of Research. 6-drop, 3 green, 3 blue sorcery. Create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token. Put X 1/1 counters on it where X is the number of cards in your library. Okay, very specific to Simic. We're gonna have to see how our lands play out. It can make you a big creature. If they're playing red, like Boros for instance, well, Boros has a way to get rid of it. It can just exile it for 3 mana at instant speed. They'll have to be playing like what? Red, black? I'm pretty sure black has something to get rid of this. I'm gonna get a card at 3.5. I know people will like it. I mean, it makes you a big creature, and if there's like a fling ability, maybe it's a little bit above curve. You can make a big creature. If they don't have the answer, they're just chomping all day, right? But if they have the answer, you're just invested 6 specific mana for little value. I'm gonna give it 3.5, and it could go up, but I don't know. I mean, making them have the answer is pretty important. I'm gonna give it 3. Yeah, I'm still gonna say a 3.5. 6 mana is a lot. The fractal token does not have trample. Next we have Closing Statement. It's a 5-drop, 3 generic, white, and a black instant. This spell costs 2 less to cast during your end step. Destroy target creature or planeswalker you don't control. Put a 1/1 counter on up to 1 target creature you do control. I love this. I'm definitely going to be playing Orzhov. Like, they're giving us all the things. Like, Orzhov or Mardu. Maybe Boros, but Orzhov definitely got some key pieces. You wait till your end step, you destroy their creature, and put a counter on something you control. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I'm definitely giving this a... I mean, I'm giving it a 3.75. Really close to a 4. I mean, it's just destroy target creature. And you can do it for what? 3 mana? Or planes. closing statement gets a 4. That's my closing statement. It takes out a creature or walker. That's really good. Cram Session, 2 mana, 1 generic, and a hybrid green black. You gain 4 life. Learn. If you're dealing with those life gain decks, you'll want to have this. It learns, so it gets you a card out the sideboard specific. I'm going to give it a 3.25. I think it's a little better than average, better than your just gain life cards. The learn ability, I keep saying it, it's just, in my opinion, pretty strong. Next we have Creative Outburst, a 7 drop, 3 generic, 2 blue, 2 red. Yikes. Instant Creative Outburst deals 5 damage to any target. Look at the top 5 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, and the rest from the bottom of your library in a random order. You may pay 2 mana, a blue 2 red blue hybrid. Discard Creative Outburst, create a treasure token. So you can use it to ramp for a turn, or you can deal 5 damage to your opponent. Look at top 5 cards of your library, put one in your hand. The rest on the bottom of your library. For 7 mana, well, is it play this? They're giving us a lot of spells, but they're taxing us for it, right? Let me slide over here. So there we go. They're really taxing us on these, so I don't know. I'm gonna give Creative Outburst a 3.25 right now. That's a heavy cost, and then I don't want to just ramp for a turn for 2 mana if I'm not casting it for its regular cost. Creative Outburst could go up, but right now it's not looking that great to me. Next we have Culling Ritual, a 4 drop, 2 generic, black and a green sorcery. Destroy each non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less. Add black or green for each permanent destroyed this way. I'm giving this a 4.75. Now, reasonable board wipes typically get like 5s, but the 8 mana one that didn't quite make it, right? This one isn't a full board wipe. It's just for permanents 2 or less, and that includes your permanents. But you get to ramp with it too, so you can play this. Say they have 2 creatures, 2 or less. Boom, you ramp up 2 mana. That could be invaluable. But at the same time, it's still not a full board wipe. So I'm not going to give it a 5 status. But I do think it's really high up there. 4.75. Next we have Culmination of Studies. It is a X blue red sorcery. Exile the top X cards of your library. For each land card exiled this way, create a treasure token. For each blue card exiled this way, draw a card. For each red card exiled this way, Culmination of Studies deals 1 damage to each opponent. This card is great. This is ridiculous. Wow. Draw cards, deal damage, make treasures. I'm going to give this a 4.25 because you can start playing it at 3, from 3 all the way up to the end of the game. I don't know if this is first pickable, but if you know you're going to be in Izzet and that's what you want to do, yeah, get Culmination of Studies. I'm going to give it a 3.75. Next we have Daemogoth Titan, a 4 mana black-green hybrid card. It's a demon. Whenever it attacks or blocks, sacrifice a creature. It's an 11 freaking 10. I'm going to give it a 4.25. Because you do have to sack a creature every time it attacks or blocks. So you got to have a little something. Otherwise, it would be automatic 4.5. Just slam dunk. It's not a 5. but my goodness, this card is great. The mana value restricts it to green black, which is fine. It's a freaking 11/10. It would be a 5 if it had trample or menace or death touch or whatever. Well, it wouldn't even need death touch. It's 11/10. So yeah, I'm gonna get us a 4.25. You see it? I'm gonna grab it if I see it for sure. Demagoth Woe Eater. 4-drop, 1 generic, a black, a green-black hybrid, and a green demon. At the beginning of your upkeep, sack a creature. When you sack a creature, each opponent discards a card. You draw a card and gain 2 life. Ooh wee! It's a 7/6. Okay, I'm giving this a. Jeez, green black looks like he got some gas. This archetype guide is gonna be freaking fun because this is just uncommon. This is big playable. I'm gonna have to give this a 4.25, I think, as well. And the card value, I really want to give it higher, but just like the other card had a restriction, you gotta sack a creature at the beginning of your turn, and without it, you might end up sacking your own stuff. So you gotta play this right. But this card is really freaking good. Next we have Deadly Brew, a black-green sorcery. Each player sacks a creature or walker. If you sacrifice a permanent this way, you may return another permanent from your graveyard to your hand. Okay, so a 2-drop, you know, it's early. I like the card. It doesn't target. If you sack a creature, you can get something back from the battlefield. I'm gonna get this a 3.75. Card's kind of conditional, and it looks like there's gonna be a lot of tokens, so they could just simply sack a token too. But the fact that you can get something back from your graveyard could be really potent. Next we have Decisive Denial, a green-blue instant. Choose one target creature you control, fight the target creature you don't control. Okay, and counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 3. Simic's definitely gonna want this card. I'm gonna give it a 3.5 because it is restricted to Simic, just completely restricted. But it does have that modal feature that makes it really good. You can remove a threat that's already hit the board, or you can counter their board wipe or whatnot that you know you're gonna come up against. I'm guessing you're gonna see a board wipe at least half. I won't say half the time, but a good bit of times. Next time we have next card we have Dina Soul Steeper, a green-black legendary creature, Dryad Druid. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses life. Green-black's gonna want this, especially with those pests. Jeez. Oh my gosh. Green-black might be where it's at if it can survive the aggressiveness coming from white. Pay 1, sack another creature. Dina Soul Reaper gets X0 until end of turn, where X is the sacrifice creature's power. So Dina could potentially even close out games. I'm gonna give it a 3.75 because you're gonna want the card in your green black deck, but it easily, you know, destroyed or whatnot. Doesn't attack in well, doesn't have trample, doesn't have any discernible qualities other than sacking one of your own creatures to boost it up. So I'm gonna give it a 3.75 just because I know your green-black pest deck is definitely going to want to run Dina to have a consistent strategy, and 2 of them in the build would be great. Next we have Double Major, green-blue instant. Copy target creature spell you control, except it isn't legendary if spell is legendary. So do you have to do this as you're casting the creature? Hmm. If it's just copy target creature that's on the board, that's really broken. For 2 mana, I really think this is copy the spell itself, like as you're casting it, which is fine, but it does take down, it limits the window you can play the card. You'll want to have at least 5 mana when you do this to get a, like a good 3 drop, maybe a good 2 drop, but I'm seeing 3 to 4 extra mana, so 5 to 6 mana before you play double major. I'm gonna give it a 3.5. It doesn't do anything by itself, but I think it's above curve, and the fact that it makes one of your legendary creatures not legendary, I think could be really powerful. Next we have Dramatic Finale. It's a 4-drop white-black hybrid enchantment. Creature tokens you control get 1/1. My pests are gonna get 1/1, and I mean it's not in green-black. I mean green-blue, but your fractal tokens could get 1/1. Whenever one or more non-token creatures you control die, create a 2/1 white and black inkling creature token with flying. This ability triggers only once each turn. Only once? I'd play 2 or 3 copies of this card. Like, especially if you're able to compose the creature token deck. I'm gonna give it a 3.75. You have to be in the token deck, but I mean, I really think this card could be up to a 4, but I'm not gonna choose this over like an efficient removal spell. But the fact that whenever a non-token creature you control die, you get to create a creature, I think that's really really powerful. I'm gonna give it a 3.75 though, and it might go up actually. Next we have Elemental Expressionist, a 4-drop red-blue hybrid creature orc wizard with Magecraft. Choose target creature you control until end of turn. It gains if this creature would leave the battlefield. Exile it instead of putting it anywhere else, and when you exile this creature, create a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token. It's a 4/4. That's an interesting ability, right? I'm guessing you use this defensively, like your opponent targets your creature to remove. You Magecraft somehow? I don't know. I mean, reasonable stats is automatic a 3 just being a 4-drop 4/4. I'm gonna give it a 3.5 because of the added ability. And this card could go up, but I don't know how to gauge it right now. Next we have Elemental Masterpiece, a 7-drop 5 generic blue red sorcery. Create 2 4/4 blue and red elemental creature tokens, or pay 2 hybrid red or blue, discard Elemental Masterpiece, create a treasure token. Your big brain players probably be able to use this to the fullest extent. I'm just gonna give it a 3.5 for now. Actually, I'm gonna give it a 3.25. I think it's right above average. That mana cost is just ridiculous, and I don't want to have to just discard my card to get a treasure token. Next, we have Elemental Summoning, a 3-drop 2 hybrid red-blue hybrid 5-drop. I said that all wrong. 5-drop 3 generic 2 red-blue hybrid lesson. Okay, a lesson. Create a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token. Okay. 3.5. I mean, 5-drop 4/4, but it's a lesson. You can just go get it out your sideboard. That's great. Especially when you're the Izzet player. Next we have Eureka Moment, a 4-drop 2 generic green blue instant. Draw 2 cards. You may put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. What? Oh man, Simic players probably play 2 to 3 of these. I'm giving it a 4. I think this card is just absolutely amazing. You draw 2 cards, and you can put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. It might be a 4.25, really, but I don't know if I'm going to choose a removal over it, but it's pretty good. Oh, man. Next, we have Exhilarating Elocution. 4-drop, 2 generic white-black sorcery. Put 2 1/1 counters on target creature you control. Other creatures you control get 1/1 until end of turn. Triggers Magecraft. It's a hefty cost for a sorcery, right? But you can put 2 1/1 counters on target creature, then pump your whole squad. I mean, I think this is at least playable. I'm gonna say it's a 3.25 because that's a heavy cost for a pump, and that could go up depending on the format. Next, we have Expressive Iteration, a blue-red sorcery. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put 1 of them into your hand. Put 1 of them on the bottom of your library. And exile 1 of them. You may play the exile card this turn. They're really giving us some unique effects, right? So you pick 3 cards. You put 1 in your hand. 1 on the bottom of your library, so you won't see that for a while. Then you can exile 1 and you can play it that same turn. I'm gonna give this a for is it right now I'm just gonna give it a 3.25. I think it's decent, but there's a lot of like, what if you exile a card and you can't cast it or something? I think it's okay, and is it players that probably want to pick it up, but I don't think it'll be a first pickable card for me. But I could be wrong. Maybe that card's a 3.5, but I'm still going to give it a 3.25 for now. Next, we have Fractal Summoning. It is a X2 hybrid green-blue. Lesson: create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token. Put X/1/1 counters on it. I like the fact that it's a lesson. I'm gonna give this a 3.5. Something because you like lessons. If they're average and they're lessons, they automatically go to being above average. But this isn't just broken. If you're doing like the fractal deck, maybe. But I'm not even sure if a fractal archetype is gonna really come together. I'm gonna have to see. But I'm going to give it a 3.5 just because it can be tutored up from the sideboard. Next we have Fracture, a white-black instant. Destroy target artifact, enchantment, or walker. I'm going to give it a 3.25. I mean, it's a cheap way to destroy things, but it doesn't say creature, and that's what you really want to blow up for 2, right? Especially 2 white-black. Actually, I'm going to get this card to 3. I know it destroys walkers. Yeah, that's cool, but if it had lesson on it, that would be great. But it wouldn't be an instant. I'm going to give this a 3. I think this card is just average. You'll probably want to play 1 copy of it in your Orzhov build. Next, we have Galazeth Prismari, a 4-drop. 2 generic blue-red legendary creature, Elder Dragon. Flying. When it ETBs, create a treasure token. Artifacts you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast an instant or sorcery spell. Okay. Another Elder Dragon. This is a 3/4. I like it. I mean, I think it's high pick. What do we put the other one? At like, was it a 3.75 because of the mana cost? I'm pretty sure this is like 4-drop, and is definitely pickable. It's gonna ETB ramp you but with a treasure. It's a cheap mana cost. I'm gonna give it a 4.25. I think it's gonna really want this, and then if you have other artifacts, it's gonna give you even more value on your big costing Izzet spells. So I'm gonna give this a 4.25. I think Izzet players will value this highly. Next we have Golden Ratio, 3 drop, 1 generic, green and a blue. Sorcery, draw a card for each different power among creatures you control. I'm gonna just put this at average. Like, you could probably break this. You know, you have 1 power creature, 2 power creature, and then you play this, you get 2 cards, so it's a divination. And maybe later in the game it gives you some value, but what if your creatures are like the same power? So I think it's average, and it might be a little below or above average depending on how you play. Next we have Harness Infinity. It is a 7 drop, 1 generic, 3 black, 3 green instant. Exchange your hand and graveyard. Exile Harness Infinity. Big brains are gonna love this. If you're able to get it in a Golgari build where you're discarding cards and doing all these different things, maybe you want a copy of this. I'm gonna put it at 3.25. I think it's a little above average. I think Golgari will want to see it. Actually, I might have to invert that. I might have to put this at 2.75. This is really specific. Like, you have to be in green black, and you have to put together your build perfectly. So although this card has a lot of power behind it as far as a card, I think it's just a 2.75, a little below average. Next we have Hofri Ghostforge, a 5 drop, 3 generic, red and a white legendary creature, dwarf cleric. Spirits you control get 1/1 and have trample and haste. Nice. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, exile it. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's a spirit in addition to its other types, and has when this creature leaves the battlefield, return the exile card to your graveyard. Whoa, this is a 4/5. This card is ridiculous. If you're able to assemble the spirit deck, you're already in good shape. Plus, if your spirits die, they come back as a copy of it. Oh yeah, I'm giving this a 4.25. I really like this, and I will run a couple copies to build my spirit deck. Next we have Humiliate. White-black sorcery. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it. That player discards that card. Put a 1/1 counter on a creature you control. So you might want 1 copy of this, but how many, like, this isn't putting anything on the board. It gives you a 1/1 counter, which is good. But in limited, I'm a little lower on the look in their hand, take something out type abilities. But since it does put a counter on one of your creatures, this might just be an average card. It really depends on the format. I'm going to give it a 3. Next we have Infused with Vitality, a black-green instant. Until end of turn, target creature gains Death Touch, and when this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. You gain 2 life. Really good combat trick. Really good way to get ETBs off your creatures. Really good way to trigger life gain. I'm going to give this a 3.5. I think you'll want a couple copies of this in your Golgari deck. And you won't even be sad. You might even want 3 copies. And just get a lot of recursive power from that. And it's only 2 mana. Yeah, I'm giving it a 3.5. Next we have Inkling Summoning. 1 generic, 2 hybrid, white black. Sorcery Lesson. Already a 3.5, right? Create a 2/1 white and black Inkling creature token with flying. Yeah, I think that's just 3.5. It's just a little above average, simply being that it's a tutorable lesson. Next we have Kasmina Enigma Sage, a 3-drop, 1 generic, green, blue, legendary planeswalker Kasmina. Each other planeswalker you control has the loyalty abilities of Kasmina Enigma Sage. +2, scry 1. Neg X, create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token. Put X11 counters on it. Neg 8, search your library for an instant or sorcery card that shares a color with this planeswalker. Exile that card, then shuffle. You may cast that card without playing its mana cost. It's a 2 loyalty. I'm giving it a 4.75. I personally like 6-drop Liliana a little bit more than I like this card. You drop this card, the most you can make you can kill it and make a 2/2 fractal, or you can play it and scry 2. It's good, you know, depending on how you build around it, and it's a walker, is going to give you abilities every time over the course of the game, so it puts it up there. But I don't think it's as good as Liliana, and I might even pick a board wipe over this. It just depends, but I'm going to give that a 4.75 for Kasmina. Mostly out of respect. Next, we have Killian Ink Duelist, white-black legendary creature, human warlock with lifelink, menace. Spells you cast at targeted creature cost 2 less to cast. Ooh, this is exactly what your white-black deck's going to want, especially to trigger off Magecraft and whatnot. And it's a 2/2. I'm giving this a 3.5. It's legendary. If it wasn't legendary, I'd probably give it a 3.75. But this is a card that every Orzhov deck's going to want. Like, lifelink, menace. It might be a 3.75, but I'm going to keep it at 3.5 for now. Just above average, 2/2. Next, we have Lorehold Apprentice, a red-white human cleric with Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery, till end of turn, spirit creatures you control gain. Tap this creature, deals 1 damage to each opponent. It's a 2/2. I don't know how to feel about this. I'm going to give this a 3.25. It's a 2-drop 2/2 for Boros, right? And if you're able to compose the spirit deck, maybe you get some value out of it. But other than that, it's just a 2-drop 2/2, which is average. And its ability only triggers with Magecraft, and you have to have the spirits. I'm giving it a 3.25 out of respect. Next, we have Lorehold Command, a 5-drop, 3 generic red and a white instant. Choose 2. Create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. Creatures you control get 1/0 and gain indestructible and haste until end of turn. Lorehold Command deals 3 damage to any target. Target player gains 3 life. Sacrifice a permanent, then draw 2 cards. I'm giving this a 4.25. This card's crazy, and Boros is definitely going to want it. You can give your creatures, you can pump your field, you can make a creature, you can gain life, deal damage, draw cards. This is great. It's 5 mana, but it's instant speed. Actually, I'm going to give this a 4.5, especially for Boros. That's kind of crazy. Lorehold Command could be first pickable. Throw you right into Boros. Next, we have Lorehold Excavation, a red-white enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, mill a card. If a land card was milled this way, you gain a life. Otherwise, Lorehold Excavation deals 1 damage to each opponent. Pay 5, exile a creature from your graveyard. Create a tapped 3/2 spirit creature token. So like I said, I think Mardu might have a place. Like, when I make my archetype guide, that's what I'm going to build for. I'm definitely going to try to put together Mardu based on that one card we saw in the modal DFCs that was, I believe, red, black on one side and white on the other. And this card is I feel like it should go in there, you know. You're putting cards in the yard. This helps you mill, and if you want to get the cards back, maybe. But it's a high cost because you got to pay 2 here and 5 here. I'm really going to give this a 2.75. I think it's a little below average. It can deal damage to your opponent, gain you life, but I think it's really specific with what it does. Let me give it a 2.75. Boros players would probably want to try it, but I wouldn't even want to run multiple copies of that card. Next, we have Lorehold Pledge Mage, a 3-drop, 1 generic, 2 hybrid red-white creature core shaman with first strike and Magecraft. Whenever you cast it or copy an instant or sorcery, Lorehold Pledge Mage gets 1/0 until end of turn. That's 2/2. Okay, a little below average on stats. Has first strike though, which could be relevant. I'm gonna just give this a 3. It's average. Magecraft pumps the power a bit, and first strike I think is relevant. But we have what 2-drop first strikers all the time, so I'm gonna give this a 3 for now. Next we have Maelstrom Muse, a 4-drop, 1 generic, 1 blue, 1 hybrid blue-red, and a red creature gen wizard flying. Whenever Maelstrom Muse attacks, the next instant or sorcery spell you cast this turn costs X less to cast, where X is Maelstrom Muse's power as his ability resolves. So Maelstrom Muse attacks, and it's a 2/4, so it reduced the cost of an instant of sorcery by 2. After you attack, I'm gonna give this a 3.25. It is a flyer that I think is it'll want to play, and it could have a lot of upside. It'd be nice if it had some haste, or maybe cost 3. It'll bump it into like a 3.5 status. But this is right above average, being a 2/4 flyer with a little bit of upside if you attack. Next we have Magma Opus, an 8-drop. They made these spells so dang expensive. An 8-drop, 6 generic, blue-red instant. Magma Opus deals 4 damage divided as you choose among any number of targets. Tap 2 target permanents. Create a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token. Draw 2 cards, or you can discard it to make a treasure token for 2 hybrid, blue-red. They really want Izzet to play these expensive ass spells. I'm sorry, like, my god. I'm gonna give this a 3.25. It does a lot, right? But the mana cost is absolutely ridiculous, and it's not a board wipe. It's not a cheap way to draw cards. It's not a cheap way to make a token. It's like trying to do all this stuff in one. So this could probably be higher than 3.25, but that's all I can give it based on my personal experience. A big brain might see this and pick up all the copies and be like, all right, I'm gonna play them on turn 2 somehow. I don't know how. Next you have Make Your Mark. It's a 1-drop red-white hybrid instant. I think that's neat. Target creature gets 1/0 until end of turn. When that creature dies this turn, create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. Okay, so it pumps up by 1, which isn't good. It's not good. For 1 mana, that's not even that great. It's like, I'm gonna give you it triggers Magecraft though. That's another thing. It does trigger Magecraft, and it replaces the creature in case they do happen to remove it. So I think this is kind of powerful. I'm gonna give it a 3.25 because I don't know how many I would want to run in my deck. Excuse me. All right, long review. Getting dry mouth. But anyways, I don't know that I want to have too many copies of this in my deck. But if I'm running a Boros, Magecraft, Pump deck, this might be exactly what I want 2 or 3 copies of. I'm going to give this a 3.25 for now until we kind of see how the limited meta shakes out. Next we have Manifestation Sage. It's a 4-drop, green-blue, hybrid, human wizard. When Manifestation Sage ETBs, create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token. Put X 1/1 counters on it, where X is the number of cards in your hand. So alright. You're playing this for 4 mana. So let's say you do play it out on curve. You start with 7 cards. You put a mana out for 4 turns, but you draw a card for 4 turns. But you're playing spells for like 3 turns. So you might play this as a 4 and maybe have like a 3/3, 2/2, or 3/3 out. And these fractal tokens don't have evasion. I'm just not a big fan of them. And they don't combo like, at least the pests. You know, if you get that green black whenever you gain life, the opponent lose life, you can try to combo. I'm not sure how that's going to work with the green blue here. Maybe you just want to build a big board and swing in. I just don't know. So I'm going to give Manifestation Sage a 3.25. I think it's just right above curve, right above average. But other than that, I don't know how often I'll be looking at it personally. Next we have Motoring Carrack, a 4-drop 2 generic black green trample lifelink 3/3 zombie crocodile. Yes, yes, 3.75. Your Golgari deck is gonna want this all day. Trample lifelink, pump it up, protect it. Do all you can to make sure this is getting in and dealing some damage. I really like Motoring Carrack. Did I say 3.75? I think this is a 3.75. I really think it could be higher, but I'm not going to pick this over a good removal. Trample, lifelink, my goodness, that's great. Next we have Mortality Spear. 4-drop, 2 generic, black and a green. Costs 2 less to cast if you gain life this turn. Destroy target non-land permanent. We'll give this a 4. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, I would pick this over the crocodile. But they're both still great. Green black is shaping up with these common and uncommon. Like, I would run 4 of these Motoring Carracks. I would run 4 Mortality Spears. So yeah, 4, 3.75. Next we have Needlethorn Drake, a green blue Flying Death Toucher. That's a 1/1. Okay, I'm gonna give it a 3.5. Flying Death Toucher 1/1. If it was a 2/2, that could be even better. But it'll take out pretty much anything. It's evasive. That's about all. other than that, what else is there to say? I'll give it a 3.5. Simic decks will want to play it, and I mean, you can play as many copies as you want and then just pump or defend with it. Next we have Ogier Battle Seer, a 5-drop, 3 generic blue and a red Ogre Shaman with haste, and you can tap and scry. It's a 3/4. Okay, 3.5, 5-drop 3/4 with haste. I think is decent, and it has the scry ability on it. You may want that with these big spells that is playing. So I'm gonna give it a 3.5. There's not much to say about it. Next we have Owlin Shield Mage, a 5-drop, 3 generic white and a black bird warlock. With flying and ward, pay 3 life. It's a 3/3. Okay, now I like my flyers to give me a little value when they ETB, especially in white black. You can have some that gain you life when they enter the battlefield or drain your opponent, but this gives you ward, protects it a little bit. I think you'll want to play this in your Orzhov deck. I think it's a 3.5. Would be nice if it had lifelink or something. Next we have Pest Summoning, a 3-drop, 1 generic, 2 hybrid black green lesson. Automatic 3.5. I might need to go through and say that if it's a lesson, it gets to be a 3.5 because you don't even have to have it in your main deck. You can just pull it from your sideboard. Create 2 1/1 black and green pest creature tokens with when this creature dies, you gain 1 life. Okay, 3.5. Just let it be in your sideboard. Go get it when you need it. Next we have Practical Research, a 5-drop, 3 generic blue red instant, draw 4 cards. Discard 2 cards unless you discard an instant or sorcery. 5-drop instant that draws you 4 cards. That's not bad. You might want to run 1 copy. I'm gonna get this a 3.25. Like, that mana cost is just so dang expensive. especially for Is It. Next we have Prismari Apprentice, a blue-red human shaman with Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, Prismari Apprentice can't be blocked this turn. If that spell has mana value 5 or greater, put a 1/1 counter on Prismari Apprentice. Your Is It player is going to want to play this all day. I'm going to give this a 3.5 as well, simply because it only has unblockable when you cast a spell, so that really limits when it can get in for damage. But I do think it has a lot of upside, and your Is It player is going to want to play it all day. Next we have Prismari Command, a 3-drop, 1 generic blue-red instant. Choose 2. Deal 2 damage to any target. Target player draws 2 cards, then discards 2 cards. Target player creates a treasure token or destroy target artifact. So I like this a lot. For 3 mana you can deal 2 damage and make a treasure. That's ramping and taking out something. You can kind of filter your spells if you choose to. I'm going to give this a 3.5 as well. I think this is above average, and you'll definitely want to play it in your Is It deck. Next we have Prismari Pledge Mage, a 2-drop blue-red hybrid orc wizard defender with Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, Prismari Pledge Mage can attack this turn as though it didn't have defender. A 2-drop 3/3. Okay. I'm going to give this a 3.5. This is well above curve as far as the mana cost and the power and toughness. And then whenever you cast a spell, you know, say you're swinging in, you blow up their creature, you swing in for 3. That's crazy. I'm going to give it a 3.5. I think the card's really good for Is It. Next we have Quandrix Apprentice. Excuse me. A green-blue human wizard, Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a land from among them and put that card into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. It's a 2/2. Simit's going to love this because it's not legendary. It's uncommon, but say you have 2 of these on the board, trigger Magecraft, you're getting a lot of value off that. Still, I'm going to give it a 3.5. It's a 2/2 for 2. You have to trigger Magecraft. Not totally broken ability, but I think it's really good. Next we have Quandrix Command, a 3-drop, 1 generic green-blue. Choose 2. Return target creature or planeswalker to his owner's hand. Counter target artifact or enchantment spell. Put 2 1/1 counters on target creature. Target player shuffles up to 3 cards from their graveyard into their library. This is great. Gold rare. It bounces, so you can protect yourself or protect one of your creatures. You can... I haven't seen a lot of significant artifacts or enchantments, but you can counter if you choose to. You can put 2 1/1 counters on your creature, so combat trick mixed with... You don't get to put the cards in your hand, but putting the cards back in your library is keeping them in the game. So I think Quandrix Command is definitely up there. I'm going to give it a 3.5 as well. It's pretty dang good. I'd run 2 copies of it. Maybe even 3, simply because you can bounce. Next we have Quandrix Cultivator, a 4-drop, 1 generic green-blue hybrid, and a blue turtle druid. When Quandrix Cultivator ETBs, you may search the library for basic forest or island, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Sweet. Sweet. It's a 3/4. Simic, play this all day. I'm going to give it a 3.5. It's not totally broken or nothing like that, but you slam it, you're ramping. It's a Solemn Simulacrum and Simic for specifically Simic colors. And it has a higher power and toughness. I know I'm giving a lot of cards 3.5s, but they're all just kind of on par with each other here. Next we have Quandrix Pledge Mage, a 3-drop, 1 generic, and 2 green-blue hybrid. Merfolk Druid has Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, put a 1/1 counter on Quandrix Pledge Mage. It's a 2/2. It does put a 1/1 counter on itself, which is pretty dang relevant. 3 drop 2/2. I'm gonna give it a 3.25. The Magecraft ability is potent. You know, it can easily start getting out of hand, but it doesn't have trample, it doesn't have any kind of evasion. It can be chumped and then destroyed later in the game. So I'm gonna give it a 3.25 for now. Next we have Quintorius Field Historian, a 5 drop 3 generic red and a white legendary creature elephant cleric. Spirits you control get 1/0. Whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. It's a 2/4. It's pretty niche, right? Boros has had some cards that got us pretty hyped, but this one I'm just kind of like, eh. If you happen to get it for your Boros Spirit deck, if you're able to compose it, yeah, but other than that, it's just a 5 drop 2/4. And I mean, you might be able to get the second half to trigger, but you really got it's real niche. I'm giving this a 2.5. Just because I think it could have some potential with the spirits, but we'll have to see. But other than that, it's really below average. Next we have Radiant Scroll Wielder, 4 drop, 2 generic, red and a white, dwarf cleric. Instant and sorcery spells you control have lifelink. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile an instant or sorcery card at random from your graveyard. You may cast it this turn. If a spell cast this way would be put into the graveyard, exile it instead. It's a 2/4. Okay. How to evaluate this? 4 mana, 2/4. Not evasive. You gotta wait till your upkeep, and it exiles randomly from your yard. I'm gonna give this average because I think I don't know. Maybe it's a 2.75. This might be below average. Like, there's 4/4 for 4s, and then you really gotta wait and have this trigger for you. I'm gonna give this a 2.75 for now, and we'll see how it works out in the limited ladder. Next we have Reconstruct History, a 4 drop, 2 generic, red, white sorcery. Return up to 1 target artifact, up to 1 target enchantment, up to 1 target instant, up to 1 target sorcery, up to 1 target planeswalker from your graveyard to your hand. Exile Reconstruct History. I'm gonna give this a, I don't know. Like, you're not gonna want to play this early. You're only gonna want really 1 copy of it. I'm gonna give it a 2. Really, it's not something I'm gonna go after immediately. And you know, it's a really niche situation where you get to get all those cards back. Next we have Relic Sloth, a 5 drop, 3 generic, red and white beast with vigilance and menace. Okay, it's a 4/4. So Boros is looking pretty beefy. 4/4 vigilant menace guy is going to be ridiculous. I want to run a couple copies of this in my deck. I'm going to give it a 3.25. The mana cost was restricted, or it'd be a 3.5 in my book. It was a 4 drop. No, if it was any lower, a 4 drop, 4/4 with menace and vigilant, it'd probably be a 3.75. Next we have Returned Pass Caller. It is a 6 drop, 3 generic, a red white hybrid, and a white spirit cleric. Flying. When it ETBs, return target spirit, instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand. It's a 4/2. Jeez Louise, these mana costs. My goodness. I'm giving this a 3.25, a 6 drop 4/2 flyer. The ETBs, you get some value, right? But you got to replay the card you're getting value from, and that's probably going to be infinite. I'm going to give it a 3.25. Boros might want to play it simply because it's flying. Next we have Rip Apart, a red-white sorcery. Choose 1. Deal 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker, or destroy target artifact or enchantment. 2 drop, 3 damage to a creature in red-white. That's already average, right? So I'm going to give it a 3.25. It's a little above average. You can deal it to a walker. Next we have Rise of Ixtus, a 6-drop, 4 generic, white black, 2 white black hybrid sorcery. Exile target creature, exile up to 1 target instant or sorcery from a graveyard. Learn. So for 6 mana, you can exile target creature, which is good, but we have cheaper things than that. So this is average. It has learn, so I'm gonna give it a 3.25. It's just really expensive, right? But it does have that learn ability attached to the expensive cost, which is it's a removal spell, draw a card for 6. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 3.25. It's decent, but it's very costly. Next we have Rutha Mercurial Artist, 3-drop, 1 generic blue red legendary creature orc shaman. Pay 2, return Rutha Mercurial Artist to its owner's hand. Copy target instant or sorcery you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. It's a 1/4. 3-drop, 1/4. It's not really that great. That you can pay 2, bounce it to its owner's hand to copy a spell. Then you got to play this back. That's a lot of work. I'm gonna get this for me is like a 2.5. Is it players might want to play it, but I wouldn't be looking at it too highly. It's just a lot of mana cost, and that seems to be the theme of this set. Is high mana cost. Stop it. Next we have Rushed Rebirth, a black-green instant. Choose target creature. When that creature dies this turn, search your library for a creature card with lesser mana value. Put it onto the battlefield tapped. Shuffle. I like this. I think it's 3.5. It's above average. You gotta kind of wait till a creature dies, but it could even be an opponent's creature, right? Their creature dies, or somehow, you block appropriately, and you get to go get value from your graveyard, essentially for 2 mana. I think that's really good. I'm gonna give this a 3.5. Next we have Shadewing Lariat, a 3-drop, white-black hybrid and black human warlock with flying. Whenever another creature you control with flying dies, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. It's a 2/2. 3-drop, 2/2 with flying, average, with upside ability. I'm giving it a 3.25. I'll run this in my Orzhov deck for sure, but it needs a little help to be good. Otherwise, I'm sure people can either block it or chump it or just not care about 2 damage. Next we have Shade Drix Silverquill, a 5-drop, 3 generic, white-black elder dragon, legendary creature with flying and double strike. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may choose 2. Each mode must target a different player. Target player creates a 2/1 white and black inkling creature token with flying. Target player draws a card and loses 1 life. Target player puts a 1/1 counter on each creature they control. And it's a 2/5. So here, I believe the only time you're not really giving your opponent some benefit is when you're putting 1/1 counters on each creature they control and they just don't have any creatures, right? Other than that, you're paying 5 to potentially what? Give them a card or give them a creature or put a 1/1 counter on all their creatures. I'm gonna give this card a 4. I mean, it's a 5-drop in Orzhov with double strike and 2/5 with some neat abilities, but you're gonna have to be really, really careful how you delegate those abilities. So I'm gonna give it a 4. I think the Is It Dragon might be just a little bit better than this because it's really scary giving your opponent any kind of value for free. Next we have Silverquill Apprentice, a white-black human warlock with Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, target creature gets 1/0 until end of turn. It's a 2/2. So I'm gonna get this a 3.25. It's serviceable. You'll want it in your Orzhov decks, but it's not broken. Next we have Silverquill Command, a 4-drop, 2 generic, white, black, choose 2, sorcery. Target creature gets 3/3 and gains flying until end of turn. Return target creature with mana cost 2 or less from your yard to the battlefield. To the battlefield. That's good. Target player draws a card and loses a life. Okay. Target opponent sacks a creature. Gee wee. Alright, we're giving this a 3.75. This is really high up there. This gives you a lot of bang for your buck, allowing you to choose 2, can potentially draw your card. It can close out a game. You make them sack a creature, give one of your creatures flying. My goodness, Silverquill Command looks amazing, especially at 4 mana. Next we have Silverquill Pledge Mage, a 3-drop, 1 generic, 2 white-black hybrid vampire cleric. With Magecraft, whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, Silverquill Pledge Mage gains your choice of flying or lifelink until end of turn. It's 3/1. So basically a 3-drop 3/1. I'm gonna get this card a 2. It's not bad, and you can play it in either or. It's serviceable, right above playable, and it can gain you some value later after triggering Magecraft. But initially, by itself, it's just a 3/1 for 3. Next, we have Silverquill Silencer, a white-black human cleric. As Silverquill Silencer ETBs, choose a non-land card name. Whenever an opponent casts a spell with the chosen name, they lose 3 life and you draw a card. Ooh wee. It's a 3/2. So it's already better than a bear being a 3/2. So that's 3.25 right there. I'm giving this a 3.5. I think this card is really nice. It's not legendary. And it really gets better in multiples. If you can figure out what your opponents are playing, especially. It might not be that great in limited, but this might even see some standard. I might play this in standard. This is pretty good. And if you look at your opponent's hand and see what they're going to play, it makes it even better. I'm giving this a 3.5. Next we have Spectacle Mage, a 3-drop, 1 generic blue-red bird shaman with flying. Instant and sorcery spells you cast with mana value 5 or greater cost 1 less to cast. It's a 2/2. Is it players? Pick this up. Now 3-drop 2/2 flyer is decent, serviceable. So it's average. And I feel like the added ability is very relevant. I'm gonna give this a 3.5 because I feel Is It players really need this. This can stack, and the more the merrier I feel with Spectacle Mage. I'm really liking this card because those Is It spells looked really beefy. But I'm gonna keep it at 3.5 because it only goes really in that deck there. Next we have Spirit Summoning, a 3-drop, 1 generic, 2 red-white hybrid lesson. Create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. Okay, 3.5. Not much to say there. Go pull it out your sideboard, play it, got a creature. 3/2. Next we have Spiteful Squad, a 4-drop, 2 generic, white and black human warlock with Death Touch. ETBs with 2/1/1 counters are on it. When it dies, put its counters on target creature you control. Okay, it's a 0/0. If you put more counters on it, those counters, when it dies, would still transfer to another creature. I like that it has Death Touch. I'm going to give it a 3.5. No, it's a 4 mana, 2/2. Yikes. I'm going to give it a 3.25. Really, honestly, I don't know why I thought this was 2 mana. I mean, it has Death Touch. That's fine. I'm going to give this a 2.75. I think this is really right below playable after everything we've seen in Orzhov. Next, we have Square Up, a 2-drop, 1 generic green-blue hybrid instant. Target creature has base power and toughness 4/4 until end of turn. Whew. That could really shake it up for your opponents. I'm just going to give it... I'm going to give it a 3. I think it's average. I don't know if it's something that's going to break the format. Next, we have Stonebound Mentor, a 3-drop, 1 generic red white spirit advisor. Whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, scry 1. It's a 3/3. So a 3-drop 3/3 is already great, and it has an ability that has some upside. So I'm gonna give it a 3.25. Boros will love to see it. Next, we have Tanazir Quandrix, a 5-drop, 3 generic green blue legendary creature, Elder Dragon, flying and trample. When it ETBs, double the number of 1/1 counters on target creature you control. So you'll want to, this could go in the fractal deck or whatnot. Whenever it attacks, you may have the base power and toughness of other creatures you control become equal to Tanazir Quandrix's power and toughness until end of turn. So this does it for all creatures. So if you have a field full of 1/1s, when this attacks, all of them become 4/4s. This is pretty dang powerful. This is pretty strong. Yeah, this is, I'm gonna give this 4.25. I think this is up there as well with the Is It Dragon. I think they're just very potent. It's a 4/4 itself. Say you pump it to a 5/5/6/6, make all of your things that, because it doesn't say Quandrix's base power and toughness, just his power and toughness. You could really blow somebody out with Quandrix. I'm giving it a 4.25. Next, we have Teach by Example, a 2-drop blue-red hybrid instant. When you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. I'm gonna give this a, don't play this. I just don't think it'd be good. You'll really have to play around with this to make it work right. I'm gonna put it like at the 1 level. It doesn't do anything without something else, and that's just not good. Next, we have Tend the Pests, a green-black instant. As an additional cost to cast a spell, sack a creature. Create X 1/1 black and green pest creature tokens, where X is the sacrifice creature's power. So you sack your 6/6, you get 6 green pest tokens. You can use this defensively, right? That's kind of how you want to play it. I think this card is interesting. I'm gonna give it a 2.75 until I see how well it runs, because it's a little below average. Without a creature, it does nothing. And say you only have a 1/1, you trade it 1/1 for another 1/1. I'm actually give it a 2.5. I'll have to see how it runs. Next, we have Thrilling Discovery, a red-white sorcery. You gain 2 life, then you may discard 2 cards. If you do, draw 3 cards. This would be great for Boros. They're gonna love this. I'm gonna give it a 3. It's definitely above average because it gains you life, and that's relevant in this format. But you got to discard 2 cards. Right now, I'm gonna give this a 3.25. I think any Boros deck will want to see it, but you're not gonna want to have too many of them. You know, maybe 2 copies. Next, we have Vanishing Verse, a white-black instant. Exile target mono-colored permanent. And normally I would think this would just be an absolute bomb, right? I'm gonna give it a 3.5 simply because, as you see, there are a lot of multicolored permanents, which is gonna take the value of this card down a lot. But having 2 copies in your deck, I think, is very safe and something you'll want to do in Orzhov. Next, we have Velomachus Lorehold, a 7-drop, 5 generic, red-white legendary creature, Elder Dragon, flying, vigilance, haste. Whenever it attacks, look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value less than or equal to Velomachus Lorehold's power, which is 5, from among them without paying its mana cost. Put the rest at the bottom of your library in a random order. So, I think this is an absolute bomb. If I see this, I'm definitely going into Boros. I'll figure out how to get to my 7 mana. Playing spells for the free ski. I might even try to go into a Just Sky build with this. 5 mana is a lot, and there's a lot of hefty cost instants and sorceries in red blue, which I think would make this even better. So I'm gonna give this a 4.5. I like this card a lot. Flying Vigilant and Haste is already up there. The mana cost is painful, but it does something. It has potential to do something immediately and give you a lot of value at the end of the day over the course of a few turns. So I'm giving it a 4.5. I think it's the best Elder Dragon. Next we have Venerable Warsinger, a 3-drop, 1 generic, red and a white spirit cleric with vigilance and trample. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may return target creature card with mana X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the amount of damage Venerable Warsinger dealt to that player. My god. Alright, I'm giving this a 3.75. Boros players are going to want to pick this up. It's a 3-drop, 3/3, so that's definitely average, with vigilance and trample, and the ability to get creatures from the yard. This card is nasty. This card is nasty. I mean, it can be blocked or whatnot, and I'm not going to choose it over removal, but my goodness, Boros players pick that up. Witherbloom Apprentice, a black-green human druid with Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery, each opponent loses a life and you gain a life. It's a 2/2. So I'm going to give this a 3.25. You need to trigger Magecraft for it to be beneficial, but I think it goes well in a Golgari build easily. And if you happen to pick it up, I think you'll be happy with it if you happen to pick it up. Next, we have Witherbloom Command, a black-green sorcery. Choose 2. Target player mills 3 cards, then you return a land card from your graveyard to your hand. Destroy target non-creature, non-land permanent with mana 2 or less. Target creature gets -3, -1 until end of turn. Target opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. I'm going to give this a 2.75. Like, I mean, no, I'll say it's average. The -3/1 might come in handy, and the destroy target non-creature, non-land permanent might come in handy. I'm gonna give it a 3. I'm gonna say it's average for now. It does things by itself, but does some pretty weird things. Next, we have Witherbloom Pledge Mage, a 5-drop, 3 generic, 2 black-green hybrid, Treefolk Warlock with Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, you gain 1 life. 5-drop, 5/5 with upside. We'll give it a 3.25. And last on our multicolored spells, Zimone Quandrix Prodigy, green blue, human wizard, legendary creature. Pay 1, tap. You may put a land from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. Okay. Pay 4, tap, draw a card. If you control 8 or more lands, draw 2 cards instead. It's a 1/2. Sweet. I'm gonna give this card 3.5. I mean, it's not gonna necessarily win you the game. It's just gonna give you a little value over time, but it's well above curve. And if you have 2 of them, you'll probably be happy to see them, but I don't think it's game breaking. Woo, that was a lot of cards. That was a lot of multicolored cards, and I think this is gonna definitely be a 2 to 3 color limited format. We saw a lot of good things out of Boros, especially what was that card? The 3-drop. Let's go back down. Venerable Warsinger and Velomachus Lorehold. I think Boros has a lot to offer. Should I call him Lorehold, I guess? Witherbloom Golgari has a lot to offer as well. Has interesting spells, but they look overcosted, really overcosted for my liking. Simic looked decently powerful. Tanazir Quandrix looks good. Yeah, so I think in limited, you're going to definitely be planning to play 2 to 3 colors. I think you're not going to want to stick to one color that might limit you way too much. So if you enjoy this kind of content, please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to help my channel grow in the future. Help my channel get spread to more people. I'm going to try to do these limited reviews more and more in the future. And when we come back, we are going to have a limited guide on the colorless spells, the artifacts, and the lands. So as always, you guys have been fantastic. My name is Mr. Clintastik, and I'll be back shortly.